Good afternoon. I'm Kim Baez in the KRQE News 13 Newsplex. New details continue to emerge in the deadly workplace shooting that happened early this morning. We're going to go out live to a press conference being held by Mayor R.J. Berry.
The M4 Corporation, located at 1600 Eubanks.
Apologize for that. Police Chief Ray Schultz is about to speak on this. What we know is multiple victims are dead at this point. Let's go ahead and listen in.
What we're able to announce now is that we have less victims than we initially had thought because of the fact this was an ongoing dynamic situation. What we've been able to confirm, and this is now confirmed information, that there are only 3 victims who are deceased at this time. And what had happened is when the active shooter team first one went in, they came across victims. They thought they were deceased, and as part of an active shooter response, as you go past them to where you believe the shooter is. The secondary teams came in of officers. They actually grabbed those victims, drug them out of the facility, put them in the back of a police car, drove them down the street here where they were transferred into waiting ambulances. So we had some confusion as to the number of victims. We have one victim who's deceased outside of the facility who was confronted by the gunman. We have the gunman himself who is deceased inside, and we have one of the victims who was transported to University Hospital who is deceased. Initial reports from University Hospital, again some confusion between the ER and the OR. They thought they each had a victim who was deceased, but it was the same victim who had been transported from the ER up to the OR. So we have 3 deceased at this time. We have 4 additional victims who were wounded in the shooting. They are also at University Hospital. At this point in time, 2 are in guarded condition and 2 are in stable condition. We also have had a number of additional employees who were not physically injured, but also were transported to local hospitals as well with different types of distress. At this point in time, we are still in the investigative process of this particular crime scene. We believe that this is a single shooter. As I said earlier, we believe it is a workplace domestic violence situation. There is a relationship between one of the victims and the offender in this particular case. It appears that they were a boyfriend-girlfriend in a live-in situation and did have children together. We have been able to confirm that the children are okay. They were located at a residence in Rio Rancho, and they are fine at this point in time. We're in the process of doing the crime scene reconstruction. We've had to evacuate approximately 80 people from the building that the shooting actually occurred in. There's a sister building. We evacuated 141 people out of that building. And there was a third building on the property that's not related. We allowed those 700 plus employees to self-evacuate and leave the area. So it's been a very chaotic scene. Again, my hat's off to those first officers. Those first officers, when they arrived, they didn't wait for backup. They did exactly what they were trained to do. As soon as they had the first 5 officers together, the first 5 on the scene, they went in to the scene, into the building. People were trying to self-evacuate themselves. The officers went in, secured the scene to make sure that the shooter was under control. That secondary team went in and then did the evacuation of the wounded individuals. So at this point in time, we've got approximately 220 people who've been evacuated to the Manzano Mesa Community Center. They are being debriefed by detectives. We have grief counselors there, as well as paramedics who are doing any medical assessments of any of the folks from any of the 2 buildings. We do have some people complaining of some sugar, diabetes type issues, as well as some asthma, so they are receiving their medical needs as well. There's a daycare area, daycare center across the street. Those children have been evacuated as well and picked up by their parents, and at this point in time we're just continuing to process the scene. It is a several acre location. We've got many vehicles in the parking lot. We appear that we did find the offender's vehicle in the parking lot, as well as his primary target, the victim, who's his girlfriend. So with that, I'll let the mayor talk about what's been going on with the rest of this.
Well, today's a tragic day for our community. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to the families of the victims. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the employees that were in the facility at the time. I got a chance to see and speak to several of the fellow employees. It's obviously a traumatic situation for everybody involved. And I'd like to commend Albuquerque Police Department for being quick on the scene, but sometimes even being quick on the scene within just minutes, we can't avoid a tragedy, and that's what we had today in our community, was a tragedy. And so our hearts go out to the victims and their families.
we have Chief Green. Chief can talk about some of the medical issues and the triage occurring at Manzano Mesa.
The Albuquerque Fire Department responded to this as a multi-casualty incident, and we had, due to the active shooter situation, worked closely with APD. They would extract the victims outside of the building where patient care would be transferred to Albuquerque Fire Department paramedics, where they were rapidly transported off the scene, not only using our own resources, but resources.
That is the latest on the deadly shooting in southeast Albuquerque from this morning. New details continue to emerge. As you heard the chief say, there are now 3 people who have been confirmed dead. That number was reduced once police were able to really talk with each other and get all the information gathered. There are 4 others who are in the hospital. 2 are in guarded condition, 2 whose condition is stable. Now, they did say that it appears one of the targets in this was the girlfriend of the gunman. What is not clear at this point is if she is one of the people who has died or one of the people who is wounded in the hospital. We obviously have crews still on the scene and are still gathering more information, and we will bring it to you coming up at 4.